Family called me mistake and kicked me out for the new year. Because I refused to pay for my lying sister's wedding, I left in silence, and later ruined their plans. But next, New Year's Eve has always been a big deal in my family. We sat around the table, plates full of roast beef and mashed potatoes, champagne glasses clinking. I had just finished laughing at a story my uncle was telling when Amanda decided it was the perfect time to make her big announcement. "So," she began, pushing her chair back slightly as if she wanted all eyes on her. "I've been meaning to bring this up. Kevin and I have set a date for the wedding." Cheers erupted around the table, everyone congratulating her and Kevin, who sat there with his usual goofy smile. I kept quiet. Not that I wasn't happy for them, but Amanda and I had a history, and it wasn't great. She'd always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, even though she had a habit of lying, manipulating, and turning people against each other. I'd been her favorite target growing up. She looked at me then, and I swear I saw something smug in her eyes. "And Jacob," she continued, her voice sweet, "I was hoping you could help us with something." There it was. The setup. I raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. My parents were already watching me, as if they expected me to jump to their aid, whatever it was. "We've done some planning and, well, since you're doing so well financially, and you don't have a family to take care of, we thought you could help cover the wedding costs." She smiled, as if she hadn't just dropped a bomb in the middle of dinner. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to me. "Excuse me?" I finally said. She laughed, a fake little laugh, and waved her hand. "Oh, don't act so surprised. You know how much weddings cost. And Kevin and I want it to be special. Besides, you never do anything for the family, Jacob. This is your chance to give something back." I stared at her, stunned. "Amanda, why would I?" She cut me off. "Don't make me say it in front of everyone." Her tone became sharp, and suddenly I knew where this was going. She had something on me. Amanda always did. "Let's just say, if you don't help, I might feel the need to share the real reason you've been so distant from the family." I blinked, completely blindsided. My parents immediately jumped to her defense. My mother, with her typical dramatic flair, said, "Jacob, this is your sister's wedding we're talking about. If you're so greedy that you won't help, maybe we would have been better off if you hadn't been born." That hit me like a freight train. Better off if I hadn't been born? Because of a wedding? I couldn't even answer. All I could do was sit there, my face burning as Amanda grinned and Kevin avoided eye contact. I pushed my chair back, grabbed my keys, and walked out without another word. The last thing I heard was my dad saying, "See? That's what we're talking about. Always running away when the going gets tough." I got in my car and just drove. Around the city, past the lit-up streets and drunken partygoers counting down the hours to midnight. My phone buzzed with texts from my parents demanding that I come back and talk it out, but I ignored them. I wasn't in the mood to be manipulated anymore. I didn't go back that night. Instead, I ended up in a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of town, drinking bad coffee and staring at a greasy menu I had no intention of ordering from. The whole thing played over and over in my head: Amanda's smug face, my mom's cruel words, and the way everyone just sat there like I owed them. Around 2 a.m., I finally drove home. My phone was still buzzing with notifications, mostly from my parents, a few from Amanda, and even one from Kevin that I didn't bother to open. I threw it on the couch and tried to sleep, but I couldn't. In the morning I felt more tired than when I'd left the table. When I finally checked my phone, I saw that Amanda had texted a list of wedding expenses. My parents had also chimed in, saying that they had already covered 20% of the costs, and that it was only fair that I cover the rest since I was still single and have no family to support. They even went so far as to call it my duty as a brother. It wasn't a request anymore. They made it clear that it was my responsibility. And it wasn't as if Amanda was asking for a modest backyard wedding. No, she wanted the whole package: an upscale venue, a designer gown, catered meals, an open bar, you name it. The total came to almost $50,000. The nerve of her to send me this breakdown like it was just another bill to pay. I texted back a single message, no. The response was immediate. My mom called me, furious, but I let it go to voicemail. Then Amanda started texting, calling me selfish, greedy, and ungrateful. She even threw in a few digs about how I'd always been jealous of her, and that this was my chance to make it up to the family. Later that afternoon, my father called and said they were coming over to straighten this out. I told him not to bother and hung up. That was when the real guilt started. The group texts began. Amanda added my parents, Kevin, and even some of my aunts and uncles, making me look like the bad guy for not pitching in. My mom kept throwing in lines like, "We raised you better than this," while Amanda kept hinting at this big truth she'd reveal if I didn't comply. She wanted me to squirm. And the worst part? It worked. I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone was against me. I'd been the black sheep for years, sure, but this was a new level of isolation. I began to wonder if maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I should just give in to keep the peace. But then I remembered all the times Amanda had lied to make me look bad. Like when she lost her wallet and told our parents that I refused to help her pay for gas when she just spent her paycheck on a new cell phone. Or when she started a rumor that I'd skipped my grandmother's birthday because I didn't care, when I was actually stuck at work. Amanda was a pro at playing the victim, and I wasn't going to let her win this time. That night I had an idea. If Amanda was going to make my life miserable, maybe it was time to turn the tables. By the next morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to let Amanda or my parents walk all over me. They thought they had me cornered, but they didn't realize I wasn't the same pushover they'd been taking advantage of for years. The texts and calls didn't stop. Amanda was relentless, dropping more hints about this truth she supposedly knew about me. I could tell she was getting desperate, probably because the wedding plans were already in motion. My parents chimed in periodically, always with some guilt-ridden comment about how I was letting the family down. I ignored all of that and started working on my own plan. The first thing I did was reach out to Kevin. He wasn't a bad guy, just a bit of a doormat, if I'm being honest. He'd always gone along with whatever Amanda wanted, no matter how unreasonable. But I had a feeling that if I dangled the right carrot, he'd jump ship. We met at a coffee shop a few towns over so no one would see us. When he walked in, he looked nervous, like he was afraid Amanda would catch him talking to me. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Kevin," I said, "how serious are you about this wedding?" He hesitated, rubbing his neck. "I mean, I love Amanda, but weddings are expensive, you know?" I almost laughed. The guy looked like he'd rather be somewhere else. "Well," I said, leaning forward, "what if I told you there was a way out? No strings attached." He blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I continued, "what if I gave you 10 grand to just disappear? Call off the wedding, tell Amanda it's over, and get on with your life. No explanations, no drama. You walk away with cash in hand." His jaw dropped. 10 grand? Are you serious?" "Dead serious," I said. "And you don't even have to tell her it was my idea. Just say you're not ready or whatever. The money's yours either way." He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the gears in his head turning. Kevin wasn't exactly rolling in money. Amanda had mentioned more than once that he was struggling to make ends meet. $10,000 was a lifeline for a guy like him. Finally he nodded. "Okay," he said. "But what do I tell her parents?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "By the time they find out what happened, you'll be long gone." We worked out the details, and I handed him the money right there. It was worth every penny just to see the weight off his shoulders. He promised to end things with Amanda that night. When I got back to my apartment, I felt a sense of satisfaction I hadn't felt in years. For once, I wasn't the one being manipulated. This time I was in charge. Now all I had to do was wait for the fallout. It didn't take long for the chaos to begin. The next morning I woke up to nearly a dozen missed phone calls and a barrage of texts from Amanda. I didn't even have to read them to know what had happened. When I finally checked the messages, Amanda was in full meltdown mode. Kevin left me. He said he wasn't ready for marriage? What the hell does that even mean? You did this, didn't you? The accusations flew in rapid succession, each one angrier than the last. I couldn't help but smile. She had no idea what I'd done, but she was desperate to find someone to blame. Then came the call from my mother. I let it go to voicemail because I wasn't ready to have this conversation. When I played it back, her voice was desperate. Jacob, your sister is devastated. Kevin broke up with her out of nowhere, and she says you might have had something to do with it. Please call me back so we can sort this out. I didn't call her back. Instead, I decided to let her stew for a while. By the afternoon, the group text had started up again. Amanda was ranting about how Kevin had blindsided her, while my mom kept trying to calm her down. My dad chimed in with his usual, "This family is falling apart." Shtick. I stayed silent and enjoyed the show. Around dinner time, Amanda finally broke down and called me directly. I debated ignoring her, but curiosity got the better of me. "Jacob," she yelled the moment I answered. "What did you say to Kevin? Don't lie to me, I know you had something to do with it." "Why would I have anything to do with Kevin leaving you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice as neutral as possible. "Because you're jealous," she snapped. "You've always been jealous of me, and now you're trying to ruin my life." I couldn't help but laugh. "Amanda, maybe Kevin just realized what everyone else already knows. You're impossible to deal with." That sent her over the edge. She screamed something about me being the worst brother in the world, and how she was going to make sure everyone knew it. I hung up on her before she could finish. That night, my mother showed up at my door. I almost didn't let her in, but I figured it was better to get it over with. She looked angry. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded. "Doing what?" I asked, feigning innocence. "Don't play dumb," she said. "Amanda's wedding is off, and now she says you were involved. Did you say anything to Kevin?" I shrugged. "If Kevin doesn't want to marry Amanda, that's between them. Why would I have anything to do with it?" She didn't buy it, of course. But without proof, there wasn't much she could do. After a few more accusations and guilt trips, she finally stormed out, saying I'd ruined the family. I poured myself a drink and raised my glass to the empty room. 1 down. 2 to go. The fallout from Amanda's cancelled wedding was everything I'd hoped for. She was humiliated, my parents were scrambling to fix the situation, and Kevin was probably halfway to a beach somewhere with his $10,000. Everything was going perfectly. Until the unexpected happened. 2 days after the breakup, there was a knock on my door. I assumed it was my mom coming back for round 2, or Amanda showing up to yell at me in person. But when I opened the door, it wasn't either of them, it was Kevin. And he wasn't alone. Standing next to him was Amanda. For a split second, I thought maybe they'd made up. Maybe Kevin had chickened out and told her the truth, and now they were here to confront me. But the look on Amanda's face wasn't anger, it was confusion. "We need to talk," Kevin said, walking in before I could stop him. Amanda followed, her arms crossed. "What the hell is going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Kevin looked at Amanda and then back at me. "I told her," he said. My stomach dropped. "Told her what?" I asked, even though I already knew. "The truth," Amanda said. "That you paid him to leave me." For a moment there was dead silence in the room. Then Amanda shoved a piece of paper into my chest, a bank withdrawal slip. $10,000, she hissed. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" I took the slip and looked at Kevin, who looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. "Why would you tell her?" I asked him. "She guessed," he said weakly. "She saw the deposit in my account and wouldn't let it go. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't believe it. All that money, and Kevin didn't even have the backbone to keep his mouth shut. What's wrong with you?" Amanda demanded, her voice trembling. Do you hate me that much? You couldn't just say no to the wedding, you had to destroy my relationship too? I opened my mouth to reply, but before I could, Kevin blurted out. It's not like we were going to last anyway. Amanda's head snapped towards him. What? Kevin threw up his hands. Come on, Amanda. You're controlling, you don't listen, and you treat me like crap half the time. Jacob didn't ruin anything. I was looking for an excuse to leave. He just made it easier. Amanda stared at him, stunned. For a moment I thought she might actually cry. Then her face hardened and she turned back to me. You think this is funny? She spat. You think you've won? I crossed my arms. Amanda, you've spent your whole life lying and manipulating people to get what you want. Maybe it's time you learned what that feels like. She stared at me for a long moment, then stormed out without another word. Kevin hesitated, then muttered, Sorry, man, before following her out the door. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. I'd expected Amanda to explode, but for Kevin to admit that he never wanted to marry her? That was a twist I hadn't seen coming. And as much as I hated to admit it, I couldn't help but feel a little sorry for her. Just a little. But not enough to regret what I'd done. For the next few days, I didn't hear from Amanda, my parents, or Kevin. It felt strange, like the eye of the storm, but I was too exhausted to care. I told myself I had no regrets. They deserved to know I wasn't their punching bag anymore. Yet the silence weighed on me. For all their faults, they were still my family, and the way things had blown up left me feeling hollow. Then, over the weekend, my dad called. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Jacob, he said, his voice lower than usual. We need to talk. All of us. Why? So you can tell me I'm a disappointment again? I shot back. He sighed. No. Look, we talked and we didn't handle things right. Just come over, okay? Reluctantly, I agreed. When I showed up at their house, Amanda, my mom, and Kevin were already there. The atmosphere was tense, but there was something different this time, less hostility, more discomfort. My dad motioned for me to sit down, and for once, no one started yelling. We owe you an apology, he began. Your mother and I, we said things we shouldn't have. We shouldn't have put so much pressure on you. It wasn't fair. I didn't say anything, waiting to see where this was going. Amanda spoke next. I was out of line too, she said, avoiding eye contact. I shouldn't have tried to manipulate you into paying for the wedding. And I definitely shouldn't have threatened you. That was wrong. That wasn't easy for her to admit, and I could tell it took a lot for her to say it. For the first time, she looked less like the self-absorbed sister I'd grown up with and more like someone trying to make amends. Kevin, to his credit, spoke up as well. Jacob, I shouldn't have taken your money. It was wrong, and I've felt guilty ever since. I brought it back. He pushed an envelope across the table. Inside was every cent of the $10,000 I'd given him. I stared at it, stunned. My father cleared his throat. We don't want to lose you over this, Jacob. You're our son. We've made mistakes, big ones, but we want to make them right. For the first time in years, it felt like they meant it. I leaned back in my chair, and the anger and hurt I'd been holding in for so long began to fade. I've spent years feeling like an outsider in this family, I finally said. Like I wasn't good enough, no matter what I did. And what happened on New Year's? That was the breaking point. You all made me feel like I didn't matter. My mom wiped her eyes. We're sorry, Jacob. We really are. I took a deep breath. If we're going to move forward, things have to change. No more guilt trips. No more treating me like a second-class family member. Agreed? They all nodded, even Amanda. Then I looked at her. And your wedding, I'll help, but only because I want to. Not because I'm forced to. Amanda's eyes widened. You will? I'll kick in $5,000, I said. Use it wisely. Her face softened, and for the first time in years, she smiled at me, not a smug or condescending smile, but a genuine one. Thank you, Jacob. It wasn't an instant fix for years of resentment and hurt, but it was a start. We talked more that night, about everything what went wrong, how we could do better, and how we could rebuild our relationship. When I left, I felt lighter than I had in years. I still didn't fully trust Amanda or my parents, but I was willing to give them and us a second chance. And when Amanda's wedding day finally came, it was a simple but beautiful ceremony. As I watched her walk down the aisle, I couldn't help but smile. Not because I'd paid for part of it, but because, for once, I felt like a real part of the family.